Hi guys, welcome back to Creepfire Stories, the podcast that is bound to send shivers down your spine, raise hairs in places that you didn't know you had any, and give you goosebumps. My name is Rhiannon, and I will be your host on this trip of terror. I hope you enjoyed my last episode. Today's story is one that I read, and I thought I had to share. So, let us get comfy, cozy, and ready to be spooked, and hope that no one is watching you. This one is called The Old Medical Records Room by user, the only unused name. I work at a hospital. I don't want to specify which one because of privacy reasons, but it's a big one, and one of the oldest in the country. Specifically, I work in the RMI department, short for Release of Medical Information. What we do here is we provide medical records of patients to various people on request. Per HIPAA law, if you aren't familiar, a patient can provide an authorization to allow someone else to look at their medical records. Most of the time, it's a family member, like a spouse, sibling, or a child. For the recently deceased, it's the administrator of their estate. We also get a lot of authorizations and requests from doctors' offices and other practitioners as their patients come and go. Being a hospital, we're open 24/7, since other hospitals are also open 24/7. That means that we almost always happen to have someone on staff that can respond to these requests in case of an emergency in the middle of the night. That's me, the overnight records clerk. It's a pretty simple and honestly slow job. We have an electronic medical record, EMR for short. It was installed a long time before I was hired, probably 20 years ago or longer. It's pretty great though. It's basically our own internal Google for patient records. We don't even really use paper anymore. Every patient file since we installed it has been digital and searchable by name, date of birth, social security, etc. It really makes the job easy. It's got backups upon backups, and IT has pretty much made it so we'd never lose a single record. But seeing as how we're an old hospital, we still have a ton of old paper records, too. They're all filed in this huge room down in the basement, in the pre-Civil War part of the building. No one in my department has ever had to go there. Requests for records that old really never come in, so no one has opened the door of the records room in the last 20 years. I don't think I've even laid eyes on the door of the old records room until the early hours today. I got a record request for an old one from an estate lawyer's office that must have been burning the midnight oil. It was obviously not emergent because it was concerning the medical records of a patient that appears to have died before the Korean War. That, of itself, is pretty unusual. The resolution of someone's estate is usually done within a year or two of their passing. I'd certainly never received or even heard of that one lasting this long. However, it was accompanied with a signed court order confirming the selection of a new executor of the deceased person's estate. It was signed by a judge, so it was the real deal. And besides, it's not like I had a lot going on in the middle of the night. So, I hopped up from my desk and walked down the hall. The part of the building is pretty quiet at night. The admin wing and the accounting offices are all empty and dark. Passing by the front desk, there's not really signs of any life. There's a few souls loitering around the cafeteria, mostly for the free coffee that tastes like garbage. But whatever. I ducked down the side hall and took the freight elevator, because it's the only one that goes down to the maintenance level. It's a badge swipe elevator, so patients and family members can't use it by mistake. The maintenance level is pretty dimly lit at night. There's only about 3 ladies on staff in housekeeping, and I give them a quick nod as I pass their break room. It's a slow night, so they're probably just as bored as me. It's kind of neat when you go from the new part of the building to the old. You can instantly tell the difference, especially in the basement. The newer gas lines stop where the old construction starts and curve back into the wall, taking a different route to their destination. The boring, painted, cinder block wall gives way to a beautiful dark wood paneling, and the floor itself changes from plain white tile to long wooden planks that make a soft thud sound with every footstep. Turning a corner, I saw the door that leads to the record room. Like the rest of the hallway, it's made of some ancient wood that has been stained beautifully dark. Despite its obvious age, it's gorgeous, and seemed no worse for wear than probably did when it was first built some 200 or more years ago. The brass knob turned at a touch, and the door, while heavy, swung open almost effortlessly inviting. I was immediately treated to a scent that was simultaneously woody, earthy, and antique, like a library filled with old books. It reminded me of what old parchment must smell like. I made my imagination pure picture relics of bygone days ahead of me in dim electric light, stretched row after row after row of wooden shelves, packed to the brim with old folders, stuffed with paper, all neatly arranged in perfect, clean lines. Wow. It was breathtaking. As I passed from row to row, I was in awe of how impossibly clean this old room is. I guess maintenance really does their job well. Odd, because I can't even get them to vacuum my office on a regular basis. Thanks, Joe. The record I was looking for had a name that was fairly deep in the alphabet, so I had to walk a large number of rows just to find it. It was a common name, too, which made it likely that I'd have to pull a lot of files to find the particular one I was looking for. Mentally, I braced myself for what might be a long night. My suspicions were soon proven correct. There must be 1,000,000 James Smiths in America. It wasn't until I'd already rolled out 20 individual records that I figured out that something was wrong. And that's why I'm writing this, so you can know what I know. The first several ones that I ruled out were simple. Wrong date of birth, wrong social security number, wrong date of death, the usual stuff. But as I continued onwards, I noticed little things, impossible things. This James Smith has a birth date of March 5th, 1735. That's before the hospital was even built, I thought to myself. This James Smith has a birth date of June 14th, 1657. That's before this was even a country. This James Smith has a birth date of the 3rd day of September in the year of our Lord, 1461. That's before this was even the New World. I thought it was an elaborate prank for a while. I thought it was a hoax. Someone was pulling a fast one on me. I laughed nervously to the room and the pile of paper around me. I started looking around for cameras. Good one, I said out loud. Very funny. Then I came across one with a time of death declared at 13:26 hours on Tuesday, January 7th of 2020. That's ridiculous. Very, very funny. I tried to cover up the growing nervousness in my voice. Okay, fine, I thought in mental defiance. Whoever did this couldn't have possibly done it for everyone. I went to the next row and pulled a file at random. Smith, Jan K., born 4/5/2022. I spun around and grabbed another file. Smith, Jane Rebecca, born 3/2/1769. Not possible. I could feel my mouth growing dry. I shoved the two files back into place with a shaky hand and walked down to the T section. No one would possibly place that many files for a prank. Thomas, Aaron B., 7/23 of 2023. Thomas, Aaron B., 9/11/2001. Thomas, Aaron B., 2/4/1312. There was a perfectly reasonable, logical explanation for this. My mind was reeling. But what? I left that row and wandered down several other intersecting rows, blankly as my mind raced. Impossible dates, impossible scenarios. How is there a medical record here of someone who died? Very obviously, some other place and some other time. It's completely logically impossible. So people from all over, from dates all over the calendar, maybe try someone famous. I raced to the H section, listening to the strange, echoing sound that my footsteps made on the wooden floor. I did a report on him when I was still in school. I own every album, I've watched every documentary. I dressed like him for Halloween last year. I know as much as you can possibly know about him. There is no conceivable reason he should have a medical record here. I dashed down the long row labeled Hen and thumbed through tabs as quickly as I could until James Marshall Hendricks, date of birth November 27, 1942, date of death September 18, 1970, at St. Mary Abbott Hospital, Kensington, London, England. This should not be here. The file fell from my hands. Why is this here? Papers scattered across the floors, papers that didn't belong in this building. I could see his death certificate. I could see the doctor's signature. Impossible. On July 15th, 2005, my father died in front of me of a brain aneurysm in our family home halfway across the country. I am certain he's never been in this building in his entire life. But his file is here. The truth is sinking in. Everyone that's ever lived, or is living, or is ever going to live, their files are somehow, impossibly, in this room. Everything about their medical history, their birth, their vaccination records, their regular checkups, their illnesses, their cause of deaths, everything, even if it hasn't happened yet. I've been in here for hours now. I must have looked at about 10,000 files. I don't know how, it's impossible, yet in front of my eyes and all around me, here it is. A complete record of humanity. Everyone you've ever known, met, hated, or loved, their names are in here. That are in different alphabets. There are dates in here that are not on our calendar. There are places listed that I've never heard of. Your record is somewhere in here too, and so is mine. Everyone you'll ever know, all that have come before you and all that will ever be, they're all here. This is impossible, except it's not. And there's only one more problem. Where is the door? That was definitely one very spooky story. I loved it the first time, and it gives me that eerie feeling of claustrophobia and being watched. Let me know how you guys felt about this one, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so that you can come and join us around the fire, where you will all be welcome here at Creepfire Stories.